Welcome to the old Lumens channel again. I thought I would take a little time to make a copper trim ring or copper fitment ring on a flashlight tail cap. This is a Maglite 2D, and as you can see, the copper that I have unfortunately is quite a bit smaller. All I have is 1 inch. I don't have anything larger. You could buy larger, like a small section of copper pipe or a copper fitting that's larger, and then make a ring which is closer to the right size, but I will make one similar to what I did on the barrel already. Okay, it's doable. You just have to make a couple of rings and then splice them together. I'll also add a little piece onto it so that you'd be able to hang the light off a belt loop and that kind of thing. So I'm going to be cutting a couple of rings off this copper cap, and I'm not a big one on measurements, so I'm just going to do it by eye. I'm a by eye kind of guy, and I'll get a couple of rings cut basically like this. I just wrap the tape around and then make my cuts with a hacksaw. Okay, now I'll show you how I smooth them down and put them together. Okay, well, now I've cut a couple of copper rings, and with a hacksaw. They look pretty rough, don't they? Pretty shabby looking. What I'm going to do with those rings is I'm going to take my planer. See, I've got a planer right there. See, and I'm going to work those rings down to where they're even and get them smoothed up, and then we'll work on separating the rings and soldering them back together. One thing I will show you with these rings is of course they're not the same thickness all the way around. It's not a perfect cut, especially with a hacksaw. So I'm just going to eye it up, and I'm going to look at where the thinnest section is. Okay. That's one that's fairly thin, but I think this is the thinnest section overall right here. So I'm going to mark that, and I'm going to work the rest of the ring to that thickness. And the way I do it is by only using my hand on this side of the ring that's thicker to allow the thinnest section to basically stay without being sanded. If I only use pressure on the one side, the other side will just stay the thickness I want. And that's how I work it down to an even thickness. I thought I'd also real quickly show the technique. Hand sanding can be very painstaking, and it's not for everybody, but you can do a pretty good job with it. This ring has already taken shape pretty well. When I say I only put my fingers on one spot, basically what I'm saying is if I have a high spot in the front, I can use my fingers towards the front end of that ring, okay? And as I sand, I'm only putting pressure on that area. If I have an area on the side, I can use my two fingers on the side, and if I want more on this side, I use more pressure. If I want more on that side, I use more pressure. Copper is very soft. Copper sands really well, so it doesn't take an awful lot of time to take a ring and bring it to where you want it. This one's getting close. I mean, I've only done just a couple minutes of sanding, and it's already getting pretty close. So it's just an idea of how to go about this. Okay, so now I have two copper rings, and they're pretty close in size and thickness, and I'm going to go ahead and make the ring that will go on the 2D tail cap. As I said, of course, these rings are a lot smaller than a tail cap, so I'm going to have to cut this ring, and I'm going to have to cut this ring, and I'm going to end up piecing it together and soldering it. So that's my next little adventure, is doing that. Okay, I've split the ring. Now I need to start making it wider and enlarge the ring so that it will fit around this cap. Now, I guess the first time I ever did this, I just took and started pulling, to try to get the ring around the cap. The only problem with that is when you start pulling like that, the only place that the ring expands is right here in one spot. Okay. What I've learned to do is to take a pair of pliers and to squeeze just a little bit all the way around the ring to make it open up. See, it doesn't take an awful lot, and you can get it too big, that's for sure, but I just go around and give it a squeeze all the way around to open that ring up. Now, if I had plastic coated pliers, boy, I tell you what, or the plastic jaw like a jeweler's, and I'd love to have a pair of them, because you will leave marks on copper, but I can always sand them out. Okay, and so I'm getting bigger around, and I can get too big around, but then I can just close it back up again. But I'm getting a lot closer with my fit. In fact, probably close enough to see what it's going to do. Okay, that's pretty close. That's pretty close. That'll probably work pretty good. Once I get this in place, then I'm going to have to take the other ring that I have and figure out how much of that ring I need to cut off. Okay, then I can cut it off and splice it in. So that's what I'm going to work on now, is getting this in place and seeing how much I need to cut off. The first thing I'm going to do is I will dress up the ends of this nice and clean, so that I can figure out exactly the length of my other ring. But that's the idea. That's how that's how I expand a ring, so I can make use of it. Okay, now I've gotten the ring to the size I want. I've gotten the two pieces on to form one ring, and I'm going to solder the joints. I'm going to do it right on the tail cap. Now, I probably I couldn't do that on all flashlights, but this particular light, this mag light, I found that I can heat with a torch on that ring, and it won't hurt the aluminum, and it won't hurt the finish either. It's a really tough finish those mag lights use. So I'm going to go ahead and do the soldering, and then I'll show you the final cleanup, and we'll get this thing done. Okay, the ring has been soldered, and I'll try to show you solder joints a little bit. They're not pretty yet, but they're sturdy. Okay. I've also gone ahead and made a loop that'll go on, sort of like that. Okay. That is going to be soldered to it. And then I can do some polishing and fine sanding and get it all smoothed out, and that's it. Okay, one more little trick I'll show you is when I soldered this ring, I wanted to make sure that I didn't break the solder on the other side, so I took a wet rag and laid on the other side. See, a nice damp rag. Okay, so that when I soldered these pieces, the heat wouldn't get to the other side and bust loose the two solder joints on the other side of the ring. It's just a little trick. I mean, anytime you have to solder several points, you can either put the ones already soldered in water, or wrap a damp rag around them. I just use a wet paper towel. So, just another little trick. Okay, I'm done with the copper fitment ring. I've cleaned it up with sandpaper. I started out about 220 grit and then worked my way up from there to all the way up to about 800 or 1000. Got all the rough areas smoothed out, got the joints smoothed out. You can't see the solder joints anymore. I mean, they're so fine that you really got to look for them to see them. You can see a little bit of them on this. You can see some solder joint area, and if I wanted to work some more on it, I could probably get all of it gone, but it's good enough for me. I used a 4/0 steel wool on the end, and I'll throw this on the light real quick here, just to give you an idea. I haven't polished it yet. I still need to use MAAS moss polish before I'm totally done with it. Okay, and there's what it looks like on the 2D mag. Now this clip ring here is a little big. This is really the first one I've done. It's a little large. It could be made smaller. The next one I do, if I do another, I would probably make it smaller so it's closer to the ring. But I just wanted to try one out and see what it was like. I've never done one before. And like I say, I think this is a little big. Of course, the light won't ever roll now. You know, that's a good thing. You know, the light won't roll, but or it'll stop anyways. It'll roll a little bit. But that's it. If you had, depending on your skill level, anywhere from 2 to 3 hours time, you could whip one of these out. As I say, I do this all by eye. I don't measure anything. I've always been that way with a lot of detail stuff. I found it easier to do it by eye. Apparently, I have a good eye for measuring minute items like that, and that's why I do handwork, because it works out pretty well. So, not perfect, but pretty neat. I just thought I'd share it in case anybody wanted to try one of these things. It's how I do them. Y'all take care.